Welcome back to another episode of Starting Out, a podcast where we share our stories of starting out in this great big world. We talk about our highlights, trials and tribulations, and lessons we've learned along the way. So, as you are starting your journey, we hope you can learn from us. So, Cor, what's the topic for today?
Our topic for today is shifting our mindset from university to the first job after graduation.
So, we like to start at the not like the beginning, but basically how we're ending off university.
Yeah.
With my caveat of ending third year before I did my first job, and then Cor having her last year of her undergrad, essentially. What kind of headspace were you in? How was your relationship with work? Yeah, how were you feeling?
Yeah, I think my mindset and how I was feeling, even in the beginning of my fourth year up until the day that I graduated, how I was feeling was I was so burnt out. When they said in first year, they were like, oh, second year is the hardest for commerce. But then after that, it's going to be a breeze and you're going to find it so easy and you're just going to take all the bird courses in your fourth year and take courses that you really, really enjoy and you're going to find your passion in the upper years. Beginning of fourth year was done with school. I was done with studying for exams and midterms that were just pure memorization. I was done with writing long reports that didn't really pique any interest in me. I hated it so much, like staying up late at night and doing these tasks and assignments that I was just obligated to do to finish my degree. And because of that, my mindset during the last year was I just wanted to pass. And because of that, I did the absolute bare minimum to do that. So I didn't put a lot of effort into my assignments or the different weekly quizzes. I didn't bother setting up a...
It's a miracle that she actually passed and graduated. I did not do anything. I did not show up. Okay, we noted. Yeah. We absolutely noted on that one. Oh my goodness.
Like I did take 2 courses that I was interested in. So there were 2 leadership courses and 2 mentorship courses, which were something that really interested me then. But apart from that, all of the mandatory courses that we had to take in fourth year, I think there were 3 or 4 of them. Not a lot, but those courses still, ideally, it would take you about, I think they said, the instructor said it took you about 5 to 8 hours a week to study for it because you have to come to class prepared with the case answers and everything and ready to participate in class. But I didn't do that.
You heard it first, everyone. She did it.
Nope.
5 hours, more like half an hour right before you go.
Yeah, I would Google the case answers. I wouldn't think critically and try to come up with my own answers as to why it was done a certain way. And because of that, I'm pretty sure a lot of students know, but you could calculate your final grade based off of what you have currently as your mark in the course right now. So then you could calculate, if I wanted to get a 90 in the course and I have an 87 and this is how much the midterm is worth, this is what you need to get on the midterm to get your desired final mark. That was bookmark on my browser for the entire semester because I'm like, I just need a pass, so I just need this grade. So I would just input everything, and then it would spit out a grade. I'm like, that's so doable. I just need a pass to get a passing mark. It was very detrimental.
Corey just said, it's basically senioritis. It's hardcore chronic senioritis is what you have. Quite interesting because I almost had the same thing, but in third year, which is not ideal.
Yeah, but your situation is different because what you're going to talk about, you didn't fully do a typical 5 course load per semester. You kind of went a different route.
I did go down a different route. I basically was in a case competition that really drove me to burnout. Mm-hmm. It was excruciatingly hard. And then also what we have here is I had to basically rearrange my entire schedule to basically accommodate for that case competition. And what I ended up finding was that case competition, it almost dangled a carrot right in front of me on this never-ending treadmill of, oh, there's going to be assignments and there's going to be memorization and basically all the really crappy parts about being in school. Work was always on the end of it, right? Like real work. I was so ready to get off that hamster wheel. And then guess what? We actually got off the hamster wheel and we actually had to go into the real working world.
Yeah. And you know what we realized? Since we were both so excited to be done school, to be done our senior year, we're like, yeah, you know what? Real world, we are ready. Oh, welcome us with open arms. And they're like,
give me the carrot.
Psych, there's no carrot. There's no carrot for you. Everything was a sham. And both of the habits and the mindset that we had developed kind of was so different. And we had to change and pivot so much moving into our first job right after university. So Neeqs, what was so different for you from the change in mindset?
I think it's like that 180. Because again, when we're on that hamster wheel, it's literally assignments. You are in a grind. You always know exactly what 7 things you need to do and how much marks you need to pass. In the real working world, I did a co-op, so I was basically set up in a way that there's guardrails, but because I went through this case competition, usually with these co-ops, like, you have someone representing you from the school. I didn't have that.
Yeah.
So I put this immense pressure on myself. I was like, oh my God, I got this internship. I need to do the best job ever. I need to like smash it out of the park, and I need to get like 100% in these quote unquote assignments. Like every single day I go to work, I need to give my 110%, which I did, but it's more so like the task at hand always had to be perfect, because that's how assignments work, right?
Yeah.
Like tests and all that, you're striving for perfection. There is a ceiling to be hit, and you always can see it.
Yeah.
It's always 100%. Right? It's passing or failing. Yeah. With that being said, my boss and I actually going to work on this file. This was such a pivotal moment because he literally said, this file right here, I want you to start it.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about what goals and key attributes it needs, right? Like it has to definitely work, or else technically you did fail. But what essentially is that you have this file and you're going to work on it. Here's the thing. You're going to come back to me and we're going to talk about this file. And you're going to show me your thought process. Because one of the things I hate is someone taking something, spending so many hours on it, and coming back and it's nothing like I asked for. And here's the thing. Like, these people don't really have quote unquote rubrics or any of that.
Yeah.
So I thought it was crazy because I was like, you and I are going to talk about this, and that it's basically what he's saying is like, there's progress.
Yeah.
There's going to be progress. You don't have to do it right on the first time.
Yeah.
And also, we're leaving some room for errors. That is crazy.
Yeah.
Especially if you're in a school environment, you never get window.
Yeah.
Without penalization.
Yeah, that's a really great point that you brought up. I think the mindset of being in school and having your hand held, because, you know, there's going to be a rubric or certain grading criteria associated with every little assignment or every midterm that you're about to hand in. And because of that, it's almost like a continuous working relationship with your current boss, or a continuing communication, ongoing feedback loop, like that kind of thing, which we didn't see a lot of in university, right? The most we really saw was you can go to office hours and you could get like a feedback on an essay that you may have written to see if you're in the right direction. But apart from that, they're not going to give you any more than that, because they're there to aid you. It's ultimately up to you to finish the essay or to finish your assignment on your own. So problem for me at this point was, because I talked about how my mindset in 4th year was I was just doing it to pass and I was doing the bare minimum. The problem was I carried that mindset into a job, which is very detrimental. I was doing the bare minimum, when I was handing in my assignments, like my little to-do list for the week, and when I tried showing my boss this is what I've done, or showing her an end result that I wasn't really proud of, but I was just doing it for the sake of handing something in, I could tell she wasn't very happy. And because of that, that was a problem for me. Where my mindset was in university, okay, like, I don't want to get great grades. I just want to pass and do the absolute bare minimum. This was so bad. And this was a mindset that I carried into my first job, because there was a change in the level of independence for me, as opposed to, you know, in university where I still get office hours. Like, it's more kind of like a close-knit relationship with the TA, like the teaching assistant. With my boss, it wasn't really like that at all. She kind of gave me a task and she's like, you build it out. Like, you think about it and then you come back to me with an end product. And you come back to me with the result after you've thought about it. But only after you've thought about it, then I can help you. So because of that, it's like, from that, I was really learning to build my ability to seek different resources and seek different support materials myself first, and really try to build it out myself first before I go to my boss for anything. So I kind of developed that mindset of like really trying my best to produce something that at least I'm proud of, which is a huge shift from university where I just handed it in without really reading it over twice or 3 times even, but really making sure I'm thorough and I pay attention to detail of like whatever I'm about to hand in. So that was the hardest part for me, and something that I'm even now continuing to further develop.
You know what's so interesting is, like, you bring up a point that throughout our whole academic life, you always give something first, like an assignment. They mark it for like guidance. They don't tell you what exactly they're looking for. So you kind of have to play a mind game with like the prof or with your teacher to be like, okay, what are you trying to get at? And even if the TA who's done that course will try to play a mind game with what they have known in the past that does well, or they have done that does well. And like, it's not anything to your fault, but it's almost like throughout all these years, you build that muscle of like trying to read someone's mind. I feel like you're in constant communication, right? You're in constant, like in a feedback loop with your boss. That relationship, right? That things that are going to be in a, not an end all be all. Because once you hand an assignment, that's the end all be all. Like, you can't, there's no takes backsies, right? There's no, oh, can you remark it? Like, even remarking was such a huge pain. Absolute pain. And you remember, like, you can go fight it with the dean or something and you pay $50 for, like, I think that environment fosters, like, just get it right on the first time. Try to play these mind games, try to speak in like almost mysterious codes, but then in the working world, it's like you have a direct line to the person that's going to be marking or using your work, which is so different from marking your work, because if someone hasn't used your shit, you have to actually get so good at asking, what do they want?
To that point, like, it really is so important for you to build your skills in adaptability, as well as just being willing to quickly change and quickly pivot whenever you get feedback from either it's your boss or whether it's your teammate. Because like we talked about so much previously, it's so important for you to recognize that it's an ongoing feedback loop, right? So you'll get a task and then you'll hand it in and then you'll work on it together. And then it's like a back and forth relationship. And so because of that, it's not like you're going to hand it in once and you're never going to see that again. It's not going to come up in a final exam on your performance review. It's not going to happen like that. So it's really important to be able to quickly like listen actively to what your teammate or your boss is telling you, like what needs to change, what is their vision for the project or the assignment that you're showing them, and really taking that into account and then implementing that to the best of your ability.
What do you feel like you took from that pivotal moment when you actually sat there and went, this is what I need to do moving forward? What is your big tip for that?
I think my biggest tip for that, and one of the things that I didn't do very well, but I'm continuously working to better, is they don't hire you to only speak about your ideas. That's one part of it. It's so great that, you know, you're really creative and you're really great at brainstorming and you can think of great ideas and new and creative ideas of how to do things differently or more efficiently on the spot. That's one aspect. But the other biggest aspect is not only do you have these ideas, but really implementing it and really seeing how far you can take your ideas to produce an end result. And so only at that stage, I feel like this is a great advice, because once you have your idea and then you kind of think it out more and then you actually build out your idea, then you could go to your superior or your boss and you could tell them, hey, like, this is what I've created and this is what I think will make X your job or my team's job more efficient, and I think it will make this process more efficient. And so because of that, it's like they already see that you're being proactive. So not only have you thought about the idea, you didn't go to them at the stage where you're like, do you think this is a good idea? But not really showing them how the idea will play out. But you've gone one step ahead and you almost like thought ahead to what your boss or your team will ask you, like, oh, how like, show me a product of that. How does that look like? You almost take what their next question is and then you hand it to them. You're like, this is what I've done and this is how I achieved it, and this is the problem that will solve whatever problems that you have. And I think this is such an important thing to really develop and to really start doing. Is I think that's almost like the easiest way that you could physically show you're being proactive, right? That you physically show, I'm in it for the company. Like, I love my job so much that I produced like this idea for you that you necessarily didn't ask me to, but I've done the due diligence and I want to show you something that I'm very proud of.
Thinking 2 steps ahead and thinking how your ideas can play out in the grand scheme of things, in terms of like company plans and how your boss interacts with their colleagues and how your work impacts them in your team, that is super important. And I think that is such a great point that you just said, is because if you don't end up thinking about how the other players are going to use your ideas and how your other players are going to be impacted from it, you never really can really take your ideas to the next level, or what you end up producing is so one-dimensional because it only affects you. It's such a different mindset, because like it's so different from school, because from school it's always like, what can you produce in your own time? What ideas do you have? It's very you. It's never about the team. I think our program got a little bit better in a group setting. How would you figure out this idea? How would you delegate? How are your ideas going to affect everybody else's ideas? How are your actions going to basically play out and affect everybody else? It's only very recent that they started actually integrating that into the program. And not a lot of people get to even experience that in other faculties and all that. So I think you having that struggle is so valid. It's actually very, very common. Yeah, school has been a huge part of your life. And if you're programmed to think one way, it's very shocking almost to be like, oh, right, I can't always think like this.
Another big difference that I noticed is even the teamwork and the collaboration aspect. So in university, there were many chances to put in a team or be put in a group for any class or any assignment. And because of that, I felt even though we were put in teams, it didn't feel like we were doing it together for a lot of the classes. It felt like we were on the same team, but our mindset is we weren't on the same page a lot of the time. And whether it's we had differing ideas, whether it's some group members simply didn't care about whatever the assignment was and they don't show up to group meetings.
We'll dedicate a whole podcast to Nightmare on Elm Street, or more like Nightmare on University Avenue. Let me tell you about Let me tell you about all the dark times. We should really save that for another episode. Yeah. Stay tuned. Subscribe. Do whatever. Make sure you're tuned in, because we have some good stories.
Obviously that is really different from your professional working relationship now in your real job, because it's your job. You're getting paid for it, and you're not gonna just show up halfway and not really care. Where I talked about before, where my mindset was, oh, I'm just gonna do the bare minimum in university. It's not gonna cut it for a real job. You're not gonna have the mindset in university to be like, yeah, I'm just, I'll let my group carry me. I'll let my team do it. Like, I'm not really good at anything. I'll just sit here. In the real job, like, if you don't contribute to your team, like, it's very evident and it will show. And so because of that, it's like
painfully show.
Yeah, that's another big kind of discrepancy that I noticed from the mindset and from the different attributes that we could find from university up until even all jobs in all of our career for the rest of our life, but especially our first job out of university.
What is one habit now that you are implementing in your own work today?
So one of the habits that I'm implementing is I really try to brainstorm and ask myself, are there more efficient and are there better ways that I could do my task? Or are there better ways that I could shorten the amount of time that it takes to do something, whether it's for myself, whether it's for my teammate, and even my boss. And because of that, I think I really try to think ahead and try to anticipate what my team needs within the next coming weeks or even the months. So whether it's looking at the business plan, whether it's looking at your company timeline to see what are some key moments that are coming up within the next couple weeks. And because of that, if you're in a role long enough, you kind of see a pattern of when you start doing things, of when your teammates start to pick up different tasks depending on what time of year it is. So I think that's one of the habits that I developed, was really making sure to pay attention to the different timelines and kind of thinking ahead. It's like, oh, I know this event is coming up in a month from now. And because it's a big event, I need to do X, Y, Z. And I start brainstorming, and then I start plotting it into my calendar so that when that time comes, it's not a surprise to me. I already knew it was happening because I thought about it a couple weeks ago, and I even put it into my calendar.
Yeah. On this podcast, we strive for progress. We strive to make every week a little bit better than the last. So that is a great way. I love that every 2 weeks you do that. I think it almost sets like a rhythm to it, right? You get a little bit of momentum. It's like, okay, well, this is the time. Have I stepped back? Can I look at what I do a little bit more of like in a different lens to see if I can actually do something better? So that is a great, great tip and a great habit, actually.
Yeah.
So with that being said, if you're graduating, we wish you nothing but luck.
Senioritis is real, and it is totally normal. Totally normal.
Yeah. And we hope that the transition into your first job won't be as hard as we may have made it seem. But we just hope that you have the ability to really thrive in that environment, because hey, it's going to be the rest of your life that you work unless you go back into academia or whatever.
And like Neeqs said, we're definitely going to be doing another podcast topic on the scary teamwork group sessions that we've had.
That is past trauma at its peak. So stay tuned, subscribe. We'll see you in the next one.